Bitch, listen up. Now, for today's topic, I'm gonna have to ask one of y'all to close the door because there may be some little childrens walking by down the hallway. And the topic of conversation is adults only. Give me an M, give me an O. Motivation. I wasn't going to spell out all those letters. Today's episode on Girl Get Your Act Together, I'm here to get you motivated. I know what you're thinking. I don't need you to motivate me. Yes, you do. You don't realize it because somewhere in your spirit is a little bit of doubt. Somewhere in your spirit is a little bit of discouragement. Somewhere in your ear is a little bit of a hater. And somewhere in your other ear is a little bit of discontent. What I need you to do is get out of your own way today. So this is March. So March is your motivation day. We're going to start this month. Listen, we're going to start this off right. I got my hustle sign up in here because I want you to get your hustle back. If you've got a little bit of a lackluster thing going on for 2023, if you were living your best life in January and by February you were failing, and now by March you want to march your butt right on to the cookie jar, then I need to stop you right there. It's the first day of March. My job today is to get you motivated so that you can live your best life. You're not going to live your best life if you're stuck in your current situation. If you're not at your optimal capacity, okay? Let me just break it down to you like this. In Transformers, there is a character called Optimus Prime, all right? Optimus Prime is like the super duper transformer, but when he does his transformation, he's like a baddie. So what you need to do is you need to reach in for your Optimus Prime self. You need to transform yourself like a transformer. So when you think about it, if you're a Pinto right now, then you can transform into Optimus Prime. If you're a Ford Escort, you can transform into Optimus Prime. But if you are already the Ford Mustang, you're going to be super duper Optimus Prime. Because you've already started off with a good foundation. For those of you, if you're a Ford Escort, that's fine. If you're a Pinto, remember the Pinto? Kind of like a Prius. A Pinto is an old school Prius before the Pinto started blowing people up. Now, if you're that bad off and you're that low on yourself right now, if you're so far off of where you're supposed to be, if you're looking up at an institutional wall because you had a mental health breakdown and came up out of pocket at your job, and you had to go get a hold put on you, then you need to listen up today. I'm going to get you motivated to get yourself out of the insane asylum. The insanity of your own head, okay? Because the four walls are not the physical four walls around you. It's the four walls of your mind. You're locked in an insane asylum looking up, repeating the same behavior over and over and over and expecting a different result. You're expecting that every time you go to brunch with your friends and they're giving you motivation and you're listening and you're listening and you're listening, it's just not sinking in. The process of osmosis where, like if you sit something on top of something and it sinks into it, that's osmosis. So if that happens, if it sinks into your brain and then you get motivated to get up, then that's great. But if you're going to the same brunch with your friends over and over and over every week, and then you're like, girl, I've already heard this before. Well, your homegirls are going to stop telling you the same thing over and over and over. Your homeboys are not going to continue to tell you the same thing over and over and over. That's where I step in. All right? I'm here to say, girl, get your act together because my type of love is a little bit of tough love if you have not heard me already. Now, your mama was there to braid your hair, put you in the dresses and say, oh, baby, you're so beautiful. You're number one. Oh, honey, you're so wonderful. You're number one. I ain't your mama. I ain't your homegirl who's going to be like, girl, I'm going to tell you half the truth and I'm going to save the other half because you really can't handle it and I want to stay friends. I ain't your girlfriend. I'm your girl that's just going to put it to you the real way that you need to hear it, okay? And it's not always, and my delivery is going to be a little bit curt on purpose because I want you to get this. This curt message is for you to get up and be motivated. Let me tell you something. Every failure that you've had was for a reason. You have to fail. If you don't fail at something, how will then you appreciate the glory of the success when you get it? I know it's hard to understand. You got to get knocked down to get back up. All right? Let me tell you, you sometimes have to get knocked down in the most dastardly way. Yes, I said dastardly. Dastardly. So I'm just saying dastardly way. Or you can be a private humiliation all on your own. But once you get down, the goal is not to stay down. The goal is to get back up. And I know we learned it when we were in pre-K 4. And you may have learned it in kindergarten, or you may have learned it when you were at your auntie's house when she didn't want to pay for daycare. But you all remember the little train that went up the hill that said, I think I can, I think I can, I think I can, I think I can. Well, the daily affirmations that you're saying every day, they're not working. Okay? Because I don't know. Listen, and I'm not a daily affirmation kind of person, so I'm not going to be a hater on the daily affirmers. Okay? Now, I do pay attention sometimes to the little motivational little blurbs that come across my social media handles. I look at them. I'm like, okay, that's clever. That's cute. Okay. But I need somebody to tell me, get your butt up and get to moving. Face your head in the different direction. Make a U-turn and go back the other way. Turn right because you're about to run into a wall. Get rid of that because it ain't for you. I need to hear it like that. So I got to tell it to you like that because that's what works for me. So I'm going to give you what works for me. What works for me is this. The best revenge is massive success. The very best. Whatever it is in your life that you have failed at, whatever it is you've been going for that you don't feel like is going to happen, there's always a chance that it will happen sooner rather than later. Your failures along the way are simply meant to get you stronger and stronger and stronger so that when you get to the place of your final destination, which is the purpose, then you're already prepared with everything that's going to come at you. I mean, I'm trying to put it let me put it to you like this. Now, if you know any good stories, you can think of this as a story, or you can think of this as a religious text, or whatever it is. Okay. King David was a man after God's own heart. I said that all messed up, but you got my point. So if David was a man after God's own heart, well, we already know that David was kind of trash 50% of the time. Okay. But before he was trash, you need to understand that there were things that were going on in David. David was just a shepherd from a lowly Bethlehem. So if you got David the shepherd at Bethlehem, who knows how to play the lyre? Okay, it's the stringed instrument from back in the biblical days. I don't even know if they play that anymore, but they was playing it back then. So if David was playing the lyre and tending to his sheep, and he always carried his little pouch of stones in case he had to fight off anybody, well, he was just a lowly shepherd. So when you think about it, the people in King Saul was like this. Look here, I'm depressed. Things ain't going right in my life. I'm not motivated. The people are hollering about their taxes. Nobody want to take care of their kids. Everybody's going through divorces. I mean, everybody's broke. Inflation is high. And I'm just getting depressed. Well, the people in the king's court will say, hey, we need to motivate our king. We need to motivate King Saul. How can we motivate him? They say, you know what? He's always in a better mood when he listens to some good beats. They didn't have iTunes and Alexa back then, but they had the lyre. And they're like, you know what? We know one of our homeboys. He plays the lyre. Let's go get our homeboy so he can play something for the king up in here. Because the king is about to jump off a cliff and we cannot have the king going down. We got to find his motivation. So they plucked up David and said, come on up here and play this song. And what David do? He was playing the lyre and motivating the king. The king was like, hold up. I feel better already. I got my mind right. I got my swagger back. Everything's popping again. I'm feeling like it's springtime. It's not the Ides of March where Julius Caesar's about to get murdered. No, I feel like it's spring. Listen, King Saul was saying, I'm ready for the cuffing season, honey. And this music from this shepherd has made me feel great. Well, that's good. But guess what? The shepherd didn't know what his purpose was. God gave him a talent. Y'all can say the universe gave him a talent. Whoever gave him a talent gave him a talent. I thought it was God that gave him a talent of playing the lyre. But God said, you're just going to be a shepherd. That's all you need to worry about. Be a shepherd. So he was shepherding. Shepherds don't get no street cred. Nobody cares about them. They're not living in the mansions. They're not driving the Bentleys. No, shepherds are tending the flock. But the job of the shepherd is to take care of the flock, no matter what. Okay? So while the shepherd is out there tending the flock, he's fighting off lions and tigers and bears. But in the Bible, just lions and bears. So what happens when the king is like, okay, the Philistines are coming. What we going to do? I'm getting depressed again. The liar ain't working. We need to find somebody who can fight. What are we going to do? And then what happens? The homeboy crew said, okay, we need somebody who can fight. David said, you know what? I can do it. They're like, oh, Lord, here goes the shepherd thinking that they can do this. Baby, just go back and play the liar. You ain't good for, listen, just stay in your lane. Stay in your lane. The people in the king's court had their own purpose, which is winning a battle. And then there was a separate purpose that the shepherd had. He saw himself as bigger than just being a shepherd. He didn't know exactly what it was going to be that he was going to be, but he could feel something was in there that was telling him he was more valuable than just being a shepherd. And even though that everybody else in the world thought that he was good for nothing because he came from whack Bethlehem, he was walking around there in whack sandals and smelling like sheep, which is like kind of like poop. So if that is the status of David at the time, being a lowly shepherd that plays the lyre, just imagine that. You know, he didn't have a car. If there was any, if it was the Barney Rubble days, he did not have a car. Let's just give us a point of levity. There was no, listen, being out there with the sheep means you're not a gangster, you're not a warrior, you're not a businessman, you're not out there making deals, you're not one of the king's court, you're not a governor, you're not a senator, you're not working at the local library helping people check out the books, you're tending the sheep. That's it. That's all. Make sure they don't run off a cliff. That's it. Just tending. But David knew that his purpose was greater. So David just needed to stay motivated that God would put the right people in his stead where he needed to be around them to keep him motivated. To say, it ain't over, it ain't over, it ain't over. So King Saul was like, it ain't over, but I feel like my kingdom is about to be over. And the liar, I don't need the liar no more, David. What can you offer? David said, I can do it. Let me tell you, I'm more gangster than all these men up in here. I know more than the businessman. I know how to kill the Philistines. And guess what? God was like giving David the motivation with his talent. The lyre playing, which was his God-given talent, gave him the ability to be summoned on by the king's court. How else was he ever going to get to see the king but by playing a musical instrument? Playing a musical instrument, not offering a business, not offering women, nothing but playing something that would soothe the king's soul and keep him motivated. So if David's purpose was to play the lyre for that to get next to the king, then that means his purpose didn't just stop there with playing the lyre, because he and the king became very close, kind of like a confidant. So the king trusted him. So then he appointed David to be over the armory. You got a shepherd watching the arms. Here we go. Here goes the ascent into purpose. So then you got David, who's now in charge of the armory, was like, listen here. Now look here, I'm hearing about the rumblings of war, but I got something for the Philistine. I got something. So when David needed to tell the king, don't lose hope. I can motivate you. Trust me. I know I can battle. I had to fight off a bear that was trying to attack one of my sheep. I freed my sheep from the bear's grip. And once the bear turned his attention to me, I took a stone out and I whopped that bear upside the head and the bear went away. So he defeated the bear. He said, so I got mad fighting skills. He said, I did the same thing with a lion that was trying to attack my sheep. So the king needed to be motivated to protect his people. But at the same time, David's purpose was bigger. David had to stay motivated in his own life to fulfill his destiny. And what happened? David became one of the greatest kings ever lived. He started off as a shepherd. You may be starting off as a Honda. You may be starting off as a little Honda or a Prius right now. But your purpose may be so much greater that you cannot fathom what's in store for you in the future. But your job is to stay hustling. Now listen here. Give a whistle while you work. It's from a Disney cartoon. And then it turned to a Hood Ratchet song that I used to love, dropping it like it's hot too. Okay, now we all like to drop it like it's hot, but when you drop it like it's hot, you got to get back up. You got to give a whistle while you work, but it's not whistle while you're twerking. I don't want you twerking and working. I just want you whistling and working, because you have to, here's the thing. If you have those gifts, those talents, there's a reason for those gifts and those talents. You don't know why you're a great artist. You don't know why you're such a great painter. You don't know why you draw so well. You don't know why you write such great poetry. You don't know why you speak so well. You don't know why you're so great at connecting people. You don't know why you're so great at playing this instrument. You don't know why you're so great at leading the choir and not singing in it. You don't know why you're such a great motivator, but you can't seem to get your own act together. You don't know why you keep being drawn to astrology, but yet you don't want to go to astrology school. Okay? Which would be giving you tenacity. You don't know. You're so small-minded in your thinking about yourself. You have yourself in this teeny tiny box that you can only fit into. That is the walls of the box are the box in your mind. On one of the walls is your family. On another wall are your friends. On another wall is the coworkers, and on the lonely wall in the back is your own wall. So you have to just work on your own wall. Keep yourself in mind. You can't worry about the other three walls. You got to make sure your wall is standing up, because you don't know the other walls that God is going to change out. You can see, because when you're pursuing your own purpose and you fail to hustle at your pursuit, that means you've gotten distracted. You can't get distracted by things that are not your focus, okay? If you allow other people to distract you with their success, see, another person's success can be your distraction, because then you might start trying to compare yourself to them. And then you're distracted by what they have and figuring out, how can you get what they have? Well, what they have is for them, and what you get is for you. Everybody's blessing comes from the same creator. So God gives you this is what I believe. I'm not a preacher. I'm not a teacher. I'm not a rabbi. I'm none of that. I just read. And what I gleaned is that if there's one creator and there's one giver of all talents, there's one giver of all gifts. There's one giver of every intended purpose for every human on this earth. Everybody has a purpose. So if they all come from the same place, then that means all of those purposes are working in concert with each other. So when you say, don't let people block your blessing, you're not letting people block your blessing only by you not fulfilling your purpose. So you have to use first what your talents are and fulfill your purpose. Don't ignore your talents that you have. Whether or not you think that that's a particular talent that's going to make any money, it doesn't matter. Money should not be the motivating factor for fulfilling your purpose. Okay? Not money. Passion is how you fulfill your purpose. If your purpose is to teach, maybe it's not being a teacher in the public educational system. Maybe it's to teach people in another space. If your passion is to sing and you've been singing in the church choir since Vacation Bible School when you was in the 2nd grade and you're a star in the church choir, but maybe you've not been able to expand, maybe you need to go ahead and cut yourself an album. Maybe you need to go ahead and download you some songs on your own. If being an athlete is your passion and you're a young person, maybe you need to start running in the summer on your own time, even if your parents can't afford to put you in AAU. The street is free. You can always jog. Maybe if starting a bakery is your passion or your focus is your goal and you want to start a bakery, maybe first you need to get the right recipe. If you've got to not just have the gift. It's up to you to actually utilize the gifts that you have. If you're not hustling in pursuit of a purpose that you know that is for you, don't pursue someone else's purpose. The comparison game will cause your motivation to go in repression and cause depression. If you're always comparing your life to somebody else's life cannot be what motivates you. All right. When I say the best revenge is massive success, I'm talking about the best revenge on your haters, people that don't want you to succeed. That is what should motivate you. The fact that you failed at something That should be like, okay, well, let me try it again and make a few tweaks to it. And then let me try and go again. Maybe you might have to try a third time. There are people that have run for elected office 8 times, and then won on number 9, and then got reelected. People that fail exams. I've known people that failed the medical board exam or whatever you call the test that you got to take to be a doctor or whatever it's called. Failed a couple of times and then got it on the third. You're not going to always get stuff your first time out the gate. You're not going to be just some natural prodigy that'll get it the very first time out the gate. Usain Bolt did not run his first 100-meter dash and break the world record the first time out the gate. He took his natural talent and then honed his skill over years and years and years of constant practice and hustle. Getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning, running in the afternoon, running at night. When you think about Michael Jordan and his ascent to being the greatest of all time, or it's debatable, but not for me. In my era, he's the greatest of my era. So when you think about Michael Jordan making the junior varsity squad and not making the high school varsity team, and then going on to practice all summer, morning, noon, and night, whenever he could, practice his shots over and over and over and over, and then create this type of hustling work ethic that people marveled at. Even during the season when he was winning all the championships back to back to back, when he was for the Bulls, number 23. You know, it was Air Jordan. When you think about it, the very first brand that everybody went crazy on is still the same brand today that's still having kids spend all their money on. Because he went from not being dejected by his failure to make the varsity squad, but he felt like the best revenge on me being put on the JV team would be massive success on a massive schedule and a massive scale. So that way he didn't have to worry about his haters. He didn't have to worry about it. But he was motivated by his own failure. So if Michael Jordan is motivated by his own failure, his friends didn't make the JV squad. He made the JV squad. So he was the one who had to tell himself, Michael, get back up. Michael, you better go out there and practice. If you practice hard enough, listen, it's scientific somewhat, because the experts say that if you put in 10,000 hours at whatever your goal is, 10,000 hours is usually 10 years of focused, motivated hustle that is so narrowed that you will not do anything other than, after 10,000 hours, become an expert in the field, or the best in the business. But people usually get to hour number 4,000 or 3,000 or even 2,000 hours and say, okay, I'm tired. I don't have no more energy left. And what happens is those same people who were in that same goal, had the same goal that you had to reach a certain goal. Then what happens is when you quit at 2,000 hours of put into your talent. Somebody else quit at 4,000 hours. Then the person that quit at 8,000 hours became the best in that area, in those surroundings. But that person who put in 10,000 hours and didn't miss an hour, and then probably put in another 5,000 more hours, because after 10 years, they say a high school prodigy, think about it like this. A high school prodigy, if they're a high school prodigy athlete, if you're in elementary school, by the time you're in first grade, from third grade to your senior year in high school, you have that pivotal time. That's 10,000 hours of whatever that skill is that you're going to be focused on. It could be playing the cello or playing the flute or playing the piano. If your child puts in 10,000 hours of piano time from first grade to 10th grade, over 10,000 hours, then that means they will be the child prodigy by the time they graduate from high school. So that's the science that gives you, while your kid is under your roof, if you start them off with this particular focus early on and teach them how to be focused and stick to something, give them the stick-to-itness that they will need to keep going when everyone else quits at 2,000, 3,000, and 5,000 hours. Give them that motivation to where you're supporting them. You're always in their ear talking positively. You're always in their ear speaking life into them instead of speaking distraction. Instead of speaking failure into your children, speak motivation instead of speaking distractions like what else they should be doing with their time instead of what their passion is, because there's nothing worse you can do to a young person than force them into doing something that they don't want to do. If you are an athlete or you were an athlete when you were growing up and your child is an athlete and has your same talent, if that's not where your child's passion is, then you should not force them to go to the Olympics because you didn't make it there yourself. I mean, unless I'm talking to somebody that's in the Olympics. If you're an Olympian, then you can probably raise an Olympian. But let's just take another industry. If you were a child model and you had the face of a model and the body of a goddess, but you never did make it to the runways of New York, and now you have a cute kid, and now you're trying to make your kid into this child model, and you running all around New York, making appointments with casting agencies and doing all that, using all your money, but they really, really like painting. Then they're not going to shine when they're talking to the casting director. So when they get in that room, it doesn't matter what they look like. They're not motivated by that particular gift that they've been given. So maybe they want to go do some painting. And maybe that look that they have will just be the face that they need to get them in the right room about their art. You can't force your will on someone else's. You have to always make sure that what is for you is for you. Don't get distracted by someone else's goals for your life. Maybe you don't have any goals. Maybe you're best at being a good support for somebody else. Maybe you're best at being a wing person. Maybe instead of being in front of the camera, you belong behind the camera. Or maybe you can do both like me. I like being behind the camera more than in front of it. But I know that my talent is in front of it. When you know what is for you, it's for you. And I don't want you to get, if you feel like you're in a slump in your life, if you feel like you're not in a midlife crisis because you're not even 50 yet, but if you're approaching your 40s and you're not where you feel like you should be, then maybe it's not where you're supposed to be. Maybe you're not heading in the direction you're supposed to go in. Maybe you've deviated from your purpose. Maybe you've gotten off track. Maybe you've gotten off the side. Maybe you failed to follow the yellow brick road all the way to Oz. Maybe Oz is really not what you think it's supposed to be. You're supposed to think of Oz as a utopia where all your dreams are going to come true, that the Wizard of Oz is going to grant all your dreams and everything that is supposed to be for you. Well, here's the thing. What we learned from the Wizard of Oz is that everyone already had it inside them. You know, the Scarecrow had all of these messages that he was reading from the tissue paper that was stuffed inside of him, always giving everybody the facts, but said he only wanted a brain. But the Scarecrow was already the smartest in the crew. The lion already had courage. The lion led them all the way down, but the lion was always fearful, and they were supposed to be the king of the jungle. Well, if you're already looking like the king of the jungle because you have the trappings of a lion, but you're like a mouse on the inside, then it's up to you to get your hustle back, okay? If there's somebody that's in your ear, now let me say this rather crassly. I know if you got your kids in the room, this is the time where you need to shut them down, put on their headphones. If you got some man or some woman that is sticking their dick in your ear and fucking with your head, you need to pull it out. Get them away from you. You got to stay focused. You have to know who to listen to and know who to turn down. You have to turn up the motivators and turn down the haters. So I hope I've been able to give you a little bit of motivation for today's act. You know, you have to make sure that at the end of the day, you can't let anybody block your blessing because you don't know. You just might be a shepherd out there tending your sheep, and you just might get called up by the king to perform a tune. And that king may appoint you to be his successor. And all those sheep that you tended for all of those years, fighting off the lion, fighting off the bear, playing the song, was all setting you up to live your true destiny, which is to be amazing, wonderful, fabulous, and faithful, and steadfast, and focused on you, and not worried about those people behind you, and making sure that you smile at your haters and you got to say a prayer for them. Say a prayer for your haters, because guess what? God put you on this earth to be the motivator for your haters. You want your haters to try to copy your style, because if you're somebody that's getting hated on, then that means you're doing the right thing. Your haters are watching you hustle and eating a Twinkie. So while you whistling while you work and while you whistling while you hustle, you just know that you're serving as motivation for all those people around you who, number one, the people that love you, you're motivating them. You're motivating the people that don't even know you. You're motivating them. You're motivating your haters. And you know what? You're motivating the people who are going to come behind you that said, I remember when she was a scrub and now look at her. Or I remember when he was a scrub and now look at him. He stayed at it. Remember the McDonald's commercial from way back when you were like 5 years old, if you were born in the 70s, and they had Calvin working on fries? Calvin started off on fries. Calvin worked on fries, and then Calvin became an owner of the McDonald's. So Calvin had to start off with the shepherd working on the fries, and now he's an owner. So I want you to go from being a shepherd to a king or a queen. Stay motivated. Make sure, if you have to think inside yourself, replay this over and over and over. A setback is a setup for a comeback. Okay? Don't let make your very next move in your life be the best move in the right direction. If you're staying focused, that means your head is straight. You're not looking to the wall on your left, which is your family. You're not looking to the wall on your right, which is your friends. You're not looking to the wall in front of you, which is your coworkers. All you're thinking is that at my back, I got my motivation in my head. Stay motivated, everybody. And girl, get your act together. For those of you women out there, I've been in this situation. Don't be embarrassed. It could happen to you.